All right, so this is our network. It's very simple, very basic. We've got ourselves a router. In this case, I'm using pfSense, and I've got three different networks inside of this uh, router. We've got our a LAN here, a LAN here, a LAN here, and I've got an admin network, I've got a guest network, and I have a services network. And now the purpose of segmenting these networks is that I can have my friends come over, my kids can use this network, and they can all go out to the internet. And that is actually the only thing that I'm allowing these people on this network to do. They can only go into the internet. And in fact, I'm actually going a step further and I'm only allowing them to access HTTPS traffic. I've actually denied the ability to go to HTTP. Okay, so I want them to go to secured traffic. If I go over to admin, that's where I would live. I would have complete access to the router here. I would have access to anything in this network, and I would have access to anything in this network. Okay, so the admin network, they can do it all. Services, I actually have FTP running on this server over here. And additional security that I've set up is that this machine can not access the internet. It cannot get out there. If I wanted to, I could add a firewall rule that I could add to the firewall that would allow this machine to go to the internet if I want to do like updates and whatnot. But by default, I actually just want this machine here to only be accessed by this machine. So I have a firewall rule set up over here that will allow traffic over here. But if any traffic is generated over here, like if a user somehow gets access to the machine, they won't be able to go to the internet, they won't be able to go to this network, and they won't be able to go to this network. It has to start from over here, from the admin side. And because we're dealing with a stateful firewall, that's what makes this whole thing possible, because we go across our network, the state is remembered, something happens, and then when the packet is being returned, it will be remembered by that state and come on back in, and it works perfectly. Another thing is that I've created some specific firewall rules over here that are denying access of the guest network to everything over here and everything over here. All right, so that's the topology. Let's go ahead and look at the actual firewall rules that you can actually put in place in your home. And hopefully this should be a huge help to a lot of people that are finding themselves working from home. First things first, let's take a look at our pfSense machine that I'm using. I've got four interfaces. I've got our WAN, I have an admin network, and a guest network, and a services network. And so I'm also going to be showing you how to change the names of these networks. We're going to jump over into our Kali Linux machine, which I've placed on my admin network. I've placed a Rocky Linux machine in the guest network, and I've placed an Ubuntu server machine inside the, well, it's just an Ubuntu desktop. It's got FTP running, but I've got it inside of the services network. So let's go over to Kali. And we're going to go over and take a quick look at how to change the interfaces. All right. This is our main landing page in pfSense. Let's go over to the interfaces, and we're going to go to assignments. And it's really quite simple, actually. You just go ahead and go to which one you want to change, click on the interface that you want, and then go ahead and change it right over here. Okay, we can do the same thing for all the other ones, and you can change all kinds of stuff in here. Okay, I've changed them to names that make sense to me. They're logical. So admin, guest, and services. But you're here to see about the firewall rules. Okay, so let's talk about that. And it's really, really quite simple. And which is one of the things I love about firewall rules is if as long as you're doing it logically and it makes sense, there really doesn't need to be a lot of complication to it. Um, and in fact, when we add too much complication, that's where we have an opportunity for mistakes to happen. Okay, and that's the thing that's one aspect that attackers can take advantage of. Let's go over to firewall, go to our rules. WAN, there's nothing special in here. We'll start with our admin network. Now remember in the topology, I actually wanted to have anybody on this network to be able to access whatever they want. So it's pretty straightforward. And honestly, these are, when you have a pfSense machine, these are the firewall rules that are set up by default. So when you have a pfSense, you have a WAN, you have a LAN, you're going to have these rules, and the LAN is allowed to do anything. All right. So when you're building your networks, please take that into consideration because maybe you don't need that network accessing everything. But let's take a look at the rules. We got ourselves a IPv4, the admin network. So that's anybody that's inside that LAN. We got our ports, our source port, and our destination is going to be anywhere. Our destination port is anywhere, gateway anywhere. This basically just lets everything go out, and that's perfect. That's all we need. Where things get a little interesting in our firewall rules is that, remember, we were trying to control the users, the assets that live inside of the guest network. And so let's go over and take a look. Okay, so here we are over at the guest network. And if we remember back to the topology, I actually want to only allow users that are in this network to do very specific things. So you'll see that the only allow rule that I actually have is where I'm allowing them to get out to the internet. And I've included an alias over here. And if we look at what the alias has, we have 443 and DNS on port 53. And so what happens when users on this network go out to the internet, they can only access websites that are HTTPS. If they were to go to a website that is HTTP, they would never make it there. Okay? And so that's one way that we can control what users are going to. And so when we look at that rule, it's anybody on this network with the destination of anywhere, and then they get out there and they're going to secure internet. And if you remember back in the topology as well, I don't want my users to be going to the admin network, and I don't actually want them going to the services network where my FTP server lives. So if ever somebody on this network tries to access this network, they'll be rejected. Okay, so let's look at IPv4, IPv6, any protocol. Anybody on the guest network, source port of any, if they want to go to a destination of anywhere in this network here on any port, just reject it. And for me, at the very bottom here, I do have a catch-all where it is actually saying that if any traffic is bizarre and doesn't match any of these things, if it is way out there, just stop it altogether. It's honestly a little redundant to have this here in this particular makeup, but it just gives me peace of mind. And that brings us to our services network, and this one's quite interesting too. Here we are over at the services network. Now, what's unique about this one is that if we remember back to the topology, the admin network is able to access the services network. And on this network, I have a FTP server, and we're able to log in and access whatever files we need over there. But as we see here, there's no active firewall rules. I have one here that's blurred out, but I can honestly just remove that and be completely happy, and everything would work just fine. But that's what we're seeing here is an example of how a stateful firewall is actually being used. Okay, the admin network. If we go fly over here, we're able to leave the network, and we can go over to the services network because we're allowing traffic out of the admin. We access an asset inside of this network, and because we are working with a stateful firewall, those packets that are returned from the FTP server and are going back to the admin network are allowed through because of the stateful firewall. Okay, and so in here we actually don't need to have any firewall rules, because if somebody were to be on this network, or let's say if somebody were able to log into that FTP server, like actually into that machine, they wouldn't be able to get to the internet because there's no rules saying that they can do that. They wouldn't be able to scan another network because there's no rules that say that they can scan a different network. The most that somebody could do in this scenario is scan a different asset that lives on the services network. Okay, so there you go. This guy can't get out to the internet, which is exactly what we want. We want it to be only accessible via the admin network. So let's take another look at our topology again. Now we've gone through the firewall rules for the admin, for the guest, and the services, and we've looked logically at how these specific rules are controlling the specific segments and what the assets inside of the network can actually do. So, which is really important. And what I'm trying to stress with this video is that we have so many distributed users out there accessing work, and most routers have the capability of at least having two different segments, having an admin network and then having a guest network. And as we saw in the firewall rules that we've done, is that there really isn't that many complicated rules that we would need to add to that network in order to provide an appropriate level of security for your home network or your small business network. All right. Hey, if you're enjoying my videos, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It would be great. It helps me out. And we'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.